Okay. Yeah, first off, I'd just like to say hi. It's good to put some faces to our speech communication class this semester. Life has a way of catching up with you. 1 minute you're in high school watching someone give a speech, falling asleep in your class as your eyes get tired, and the next minute you're 10 years down the road giving that speech to a class, watching those tired faces. And that pretty much exactly describes my service learning experience. I spent my time at North Little Rock High School for 4 hours speaking to theater and drama kids and oral communication classes about my theater experience, about some struggles in my life and how theater has helped me overcome some of those struggles, and where theater has kind of led me down the road. My name is Devin Robertson. I'm obviously in your class, and all these words are my own, clearly. So first, like I said, I just gave you a little background. I'm just going to jump to kind of setting the scene a little bit. Like I said, it was at North Little Rock High School. I graduated from there in '05. I actually did the speeches in the costume and makeup shop of the new extravagant building in the bottom floor. The first initial minutes I said kind of talking to the teacher of the classroom, Miss Valentine, and met with a couple of teachers there that I'd had before. And then the kids started arriving, which made me very nervous. Like I said, I am a theater guy. I do it often, but there's something different about being yourself and standing in front of a class and having to talk from your heart, you know. So there was a brief introduction. Miss Valentine said, "Here's who's going to do this," and I took the podium and started my speech. So now I've kind of set it up. I want to just kind of tell you exactly what I actually talked to the kids about. I started out talking about generally just my high school theater experience, kind of the camaraderie of it, some roles I had, just generally the experience in general, what it meant to me, that kind of thing. And I also talked about how theater specifically helped me stay engaged academically. I transferred to North Little Rock from a really hard academic school where that's all I really focused on. And so when I got to North Little Rock, I had all this freedom all of a sudden, and so my grades kind of slipped, you know. And theater just helped me. Not only did I have to keep my grades up, but it kept me wanting to come to school. Also, I talked to them about, after I graduated, and I've just been in college for a couple of weeks, we found word that my sister had been struggling with addiction. She got really bad into drugs, just in a really bad situation. Had a very normal growing up family life, so this was really a hard blow to our entire family. I just talked about how theater generally helped me overcome these things. Just as a distraction, I was able to become somebody else and just kind of used it as an outlet, you know. And then I also talked about one of the things I was most interested in was my experience, where it led me on American Idol. In 2013, I was auditioned here, and then I got to Austin, auditioned for the judges, and then I made it to Hollywood, and ended up getting cut right at the final cut, right before the live shooting, with about 75 people left. And it was a really neat experience, and they were really interested to hear about that. And I just generally told them all these things, just kind of help and encourage kids that might have been struggling or had anything, and just ways that you can push and pursue your goals and push forward. So now I've told you a little bit what I've actually did. I like to tie it to some of the concepts that we use in the semester this year. One of the concepts, according to Lane, Abigail, and Gooch 2014 in our textbook, is active and civil listening. And this had a really big part in my speech in general. In my service learning. Not only did I expect the kids to actively, and was worried about it, them civilly listening to me. You know, they asked me questions, I had to be civil and actively listen to them as well. Also, another concept that's discussed in our textbook, also by Lane, Abigail, and Gooch in 2014, is self-disclosure. Obviously, a big part of my speech was telling really intimate, personal details about my life, which is what self-disclosure is defined as. Kind of just telling really intimate, personal things about your life, and it created a really interesting connection. I feel like a principle that kind of showed up, according to our ULR survival guide in 2017, was that messages are adapted in different ways. You know, I noticed classes responded differently to different topics, so I kind of molded it to the class. I spoke to 4 different classes. And I noticed that I got better as I talked. Even the teacher complimented how I got better with each class that I did. Also, this speech obviously would have been a lot different if I'd given it to adults and not kids, you know. So this shows you how messages can be changed. So that kind of ties into things we've learned. Things that I learned specifically through the process to improve. One concept in our textbook Elaine Abigail Gooch in 2014 would be stereotyping specifically. I kind of came in there with an idea that that kid with the headphones and baggy clothes was going to be uninterested. You know what I mean? They're not going to care about me. They're going to have their head down, and you know, I worried about the age of the kids in general, that it was just going to be a problem if they were so young. You know, and I couldn't have been more wrong. I don't know if it was just the story connected with them or what, or our kids are just better than I thought. They just really were. They really were great and respectful. They were very civil, and I really learned to get away from that. You know, an ethical implication that I need to work on, that was in our survival guide, is just responsibility in general. You know, I learned that I've just kind of avoided my responsibility. I've been working for 10 years in the community as a theater actor. A lot of people know me, and you know, that I have a story that some kids need to hear, and I just learned that through this process. You know, and I need to get out there. I need to set higher community communication goals. There's no reason for me not. I learned through this. It's not scary once you get up there and do it. You know, if you change one person's life, you've done something good. And so, basically, in conclusion, I learned a ton about myself. In general, we talked about some of the concepts that I learned about more in detail and that I used from our speech class in general. Listening was a huge part of it, going both ways. Self-disclosure was a huge part. And I just learned in general it's not such a scary thing, and that I do have a responsibility to be out there in my community, and it's something that I need to put more focus on. Because in general, you know, it made me a better speaker and I think a better person. So thank you.